Well, it is raining out and I have a great big zit on the end of my nose. Could today get any worse? Great. TikTok social media star has decided to leverage her following of 1.2 million people to come after me. I'm sorry I asked. So sometime last night around 9 o'clock my time, I started getting a deluge of comments in my TikTok videos of people mad at me and saying that I had stolen work from Savannah, aka our exorcist. But it didn't just stop there. People actually started DMing me on Instagram, and one person even went as far as to comment on my Instagram pictures of food that I cooked, going after me. So there's some like really unhinged people coming after me right now, and I want to address all of their concerns, take them at face value, if you will. The main accusation is that I have decided to steal the work of Savannah, exposing PAX for fraud, and take credit for myself. To really address this accusation, first I need to explain a little bit about my connection to PAX and to this whole story overall. About a year ago, I became friends with PAX off TikTok app. We were texting and calling each other on a semi-frequent basis, and I considered him to be a close friend. Around late spring of this year, I started to get some kind of snippy, erratic, angry messages from PAX, and so I decided to put some distance between myself and him. However, I am still close friends with a lot of medical content creators, a lot of people who create anti-vax content, as well as people who are on Team Halo. So PAX and I still run in the same circles. Now, when Savannah had put out her initial expose exposing PAX, it was actually a very close friend of mine that I know through this app, and we have a connection offline as well, who PAX had messaged and told that he was going to unhim live himself. So apart from her, I was actually the second person to know about PAX's fake unaliving threat. I was the one who took that information, posted on PAX's Discord looking for other people who might know him to get help, and started contacting members of Team Halo to try and figure out how we could get a hold of PAX and make sure he was okay. Through PAX's Discord, several people that I was already mutuals with and several people I had just met had contacted me and started filling me in on more of the details. I was coordinating people contacting the police and was kind of at the middle of all the efforts to find out if PAX was okay, as well as putting all the information out about what was going on with PAX. In fact, I didn't even go to work that day. I pretty much just stayed in my house, on my couch, on the phone with people, calling and texting people all day. So everything I know about that situation, I know firsthand from my personal experience, and Savannah had nothing to do with that. In fact, I was contacting Savannah, giving her additional information about what was going on, almost as a source for her. Prior to Savannah ever posting her surreptitiously recorded phone call with PAX confirming that he was alive, I had already been in touch with PAX's boyfriend, and I also had copies of conversations that PAX had had with other people over the phone that had been sent directly to me. So I already knew kind of what was going on well ahead of Savannah. I had been in direct communication with PAX, in fact, and I was the one who had conversations with him about him claiming that his phone had been hacked, and I sent all of these copies of these conversations on to Savannah, so she's well aware of my firsthand knowledge of everything going on here. Over the next week, I continued to feed Savannah information, some at her request, some that I had come up with on my own, as well as information about PAX's bankruptcy that, as to my knowledge, no one was aware of or has reported on to this day. That all came from my research. After all this went down, I pretty much let sleeping dogs lie. And it wasn't until a couple of nights ago that PAX kind of came back on my radar when somebody sent me a message and made me aware of the video PAX had posted about his time in the Air Force. Now, I immediately saw that the video was suspicious, and as an Air Force veteran myself, it really raised my hackles to see PAX giving sort of a false and shady account of his time in the service. And again, I reached out to Savannah with that information, and you can actually see in my DMs with her, me kind of putting the pieces together and figuring out in real time what was going on with that. In fact, I even asked her if she wanted to do anything with this information, because at the time I was completely unaware that she had already been aware of the video and made a response to it on Twitter. Now, Savannah did make me aware of the fact that she had already kind of uncovered some of that stuff as well. However, if you do pay close attention to the information that she put out as well as the information I put out, you would see that I did a much deeper dive into exposing the information that PAX had tried to redact on his DD-14 and put all those pieces together. Now, none of this is take away from the work that Savannah did, but the fact of the matter is this is information PAX put out, and this was information anyone could see and look into on their own. In fact, several people already did, and you could see if you looked in the comment section of PAX's video, there were a lot of people pointing out similar discrepancies or questioning things on his DD Form 214. PAX was deleting a lot of those comments. There was also another woman who put out a video calling PAX out and exposing what his job really was in the Air Force. So the fact of the matter is there's a lot of information publicly available, much of it coming directly from PAX himself, and most people have the ability to independently look at it and put two and two together. And this goes as far back as the information about PAX's degrees and him covering up Southern on his degree. Dozens of people had pointed that out and called PAX out on that. This wasn't some kind of exclusive scoop that Savannah came up with. Another great example is that Grad Report's website where PAX had left a review of his alma mater under the name Tyler Hardy, under his given name. This is information that originally came on my radar initially when the whole PAX scandal broke because some small account had posted it. But this is also information that's publicly available for anyone to look up. And in my doing some background research on PAX, I also came across this same information. And once somebody comes across publicly available information, that's kind of free for anybody to take and run with. This is all publicly available information. This is anybody's source to be used. Now, a good example of how this works would be looking at the 2014 Serial podcast. In this podcast, Sarah Koenig investigated the death of Hae-Min Lee and the possible wrong conviction of Adnan Syed. After her podcast, there were other people who put out additional podcasts, including Rabia Chaudhry, who had actually brought that information to Sarah Koenig in the first place. She put out a podcast called Undisclosed, and it recached and covered a lot of the same information Sarah Koenig had also covered, but they went back and did all the same work as well and put that out themselves. Then they added their own sort of angle and new information that they brought to light that was not covered in the original infamous Serial podcast. Additionally, HBO put out a documentary series on Adnan Syed case, and it covered a lot of the same information that it was in Undisclosed, that was in the Serial podcast. And they also brought their own sort of unique angle and new information to that. Now, what you're not going to see is a pissing contest between Rabia Chaudhry and Sarah Koenig and the producers of the HBO documentary fighting over who gets credit for what, because this is all information that is publicly available and anybody can access and present on their own. Nobody has a copyright on the truth. And that's really what I was trying to do when I made my short series about PAX. I was really gathering a lot of information, all of which was publicly available and all of which I had independently verified myself or had come into knowledge of firsthand on my own. And I was attempting to package and present it in a way that would make it easier for people to follow the narrative, as well as present new information, as well as new angles on interpreting the information that was already out there so that people could really see juxtapose PAX versus PAX and really see the tangled web of lies that he had gotten himself into. And as far as I know, that was a novel approach. That was not something that anyone else had done. The footage consisted entirely of footage that PAX himself put out and me responding to it. So I didn't take any footage or any work from anybody else. I simply directly interfaced with PAX's own videos. The main purpose of the video I was making was to dissect PAX's recent and I think entirely insincere fake apology tour. However, I did put a note in the two videos that discussed PAX's credentials, a note giving Savannah credit and giving her kudos for having uncovered that information in the first place. So I did pay due respect for the part that she played in this whole story. In fact, when I did that, I also contacted Savannah and asked her really more of a technical question, just how would she like to be credited? Would she prefer it be in the comments, or would she prefer that I tag her in the video itself? And I think that Savannah's response to me was very telling.
Look, I've been cordial to you throughout this Tyler drama, but I have had it. You're in my DMs trying to align yourself with me when I didn't ask, nor did I need your help. Then you post a 6-part series, and as an afterthought, you ask if I should be credited. Are you fucking joking? Integrity in reporting isn't optional. You follow me on Twitter. I told you I posted it already. And now I'm seeing in your comments tagging me for partial credit? Fuck you! Not only did I do all of the work, I suffered the harassment. So for you to not only repackage my content as your own and toss out a scrap of acknowledgement, you used me as a shield for the bulk of the pushback and waited until that heat died down to post it. You did nothing. This is bullshit. Don't ever contact me again.
This video has gone on for quite some time, so I'm going to have to make a second part and it's directly address the outburst that Savannah posted towards me. So look for a second part of the video tagged down below.